Hi folks, Steve Kaposi here at the Adventuring and Camping School in Northeast Thailand. I'm just continuing my series of videos, my series of tutorials on my adventure craft system. And today's video I want to talk about my 10 survival groups. Number 6 is cordage. Fairly easy subject, but we can still talk about it in future videos. Cordage, there's various cordage. Everyone talks about a paracord, and paracord's useful, but there's a lot more cordage than just paracord. Get all sorts of strings and ropes. I've got lots of different options. We'll talk about that in future videos. It also includes tape, not just duct tape. Everyone talks about tape. There's electrical tape, which is smaller rolls than duct tape. So if you just want a small option, electrical tape, you've got duct tape, different sorts of cordage and tape, everything from rubber bands to zip ties. Wire is cordage as well. So there's lots of different cordage. You need some cordage when you're out there. You always need cordage for ridge lines, for shelter, to tie things and so forth. It's also a first aid tool. You can wrap bandages and so forth on wounds. Number 7 is something that is talked about but I've expanded on. It's cloth materials. Cloth materials. And that includes cotton bandanas. Some people just talk about there's a lot more to cloth materials than just a cotton bandana. There's survival wraps. I've got videos where I talk about survival wraps. It includes cotton bandanas. Tea towels. Cotton tea towels I'll talk about. I'll take a cotton tea towel in my pack before even a cotton bandana. It's bigger, it's more useful, you can still make char cloth out of it. Handkerchiefs. If you've got a handkerchief in your pocket, which, yes, I have, that's a survival tool right there. It's a bandage. It's more than just blowing your nose. Bandage, first aid, you can filter water, you can carry things and so forth and make char cloth. So cloth materials is survival group number 7. Survival group number 8 is illumination. It's basically a torch, a headlamp, things like that. It's a pretty easy category. It also includes a candle. I have candles in my fire tin. That's part of fire making. A fire and candle is illumination, but things like torches and headlamps and so forth is illumination. Survival group number 9 is first aid and health and hygiene. Two things. You can say it's 9A and 9B. First aid, you always take a small first aid kit. Some people don't advocate first aid kits. I'll explain why in a moment. But you always want just a basic first aid kit. How much you take is up to you. I always advocate that you keep learning first aid. Do a course. I did a course a number of years ago. You can buy good books on first aid. The more you know, the better you're going to be and the safer you're going to be. If there's injuries or other people get injured, you can help people even around the home in prepping and so forth. It's good to know first aid. You always take a minimal first aid kit at least. Band-aids, aspiros, painkillers, gauze pads. And there are other things also in your kit that can affect first aid. Your tape, electrical tape, duct tape, can replace the surgical tape. You don't need that proper surgical tape. You can bind wounds and so forth with tape. Your bandanas, cloth materials, survival wraps, handkerchiefs all become bandages. Cordage and tape, you can wrap and bind wounds and so forth. And needles, you can take splinters out of your skin. So all those things, there are many things in your pack and kit that can affect first aid. But apart from that, you should always have at least a minimal first aid kit. We can talk about the contents in future videos. I'm not going to be a huge expert on first aid because there are first aid medical professionals, but we can touch on first aid. And of course, health and hygiene. Health and hygiene you really don't need in short-term scenarios, even a 1 or 2 day camping trip. But health and hygiene is mainly for your hair, your teeth, your body, especially your armpits, groin area and feet. And that is soap, especially powdered soap, baking soda, combs, toothbrushes to clean your teeth, toothpicks and dental floss to clean your teeth, stuff like that. I'll talk about the contents of health and hygiene kits. If you're going camping for more than 2 or 3 days, you should take a small health and hygiene kit. Not necessarily toothpaste unless you've got good access to water. Toothpaste tends to waste water, but at least you need a toothbrush just to clean your teeth, with salt as well to rub on your teeth. Salt is multi-use. It's a first aid item to disinfect. You can clean your teeth and you can cook as well. So they're all first aid and health and hygiene items. And survivor group number 10, again, it's 3 parts. It's navigation, signalling and communications. You can argue some of that's very important, should be 1, 2 or 3 on the list, but signalling, in my system it's number 10, but it's still there. It still can be important. Navigation, basic navigation is at least a button compass, for example. More advanced navigation is a proper navigation compass with a dial and topographical maps and so forth. But to me, basic navigation is a button compass and even a printout from Google Maps. As long as you study where you're going, you want to know where you're going, a printout from Google Maps and a button compass can go a long way to basic navigation, which I'll talk about in future videos. Basic navigation to me is not proper navigational compasses and topographical maps. That's a bit more advanced. That's intermediary navigation. And of course signalling, mirrors, whistles, signal fires and so forth. You would at least want a whistle and a mirror. That's the bare minimum for signalling. You've got my survival wraps and the tea towels you can put on a stick and wave like a flag, a mylar blanket in your shelter, survival group number 1, big silver foil thing can be signalling. So there's many things in your kit where you can affect signalling, but you at least want a mirror, which is also a first aid tool to see, look at yourself, look at your teeth, look at your body for injuries and so forth, and it's also a signalling device. And of course communications, I just threw that in. You know, most people have phones and things. You can take radios, two-way communication systems. There's mobile phone coverage in many areas as well. So, but it's basically navigation and signalling and communications, which is really a part of signalling. So they're the 10 survival groups. Just I'm going to talk more about it. The one thing I do want to say also is I've already got playlists on my channel that are grouped in those survival groups. You'll notice I've got survival group number 1, shelter. All my shelter videos are in there. Survival group number 2, fire making. That's a playlist. So any videos I do or tutorials will be put into those playlists. Not everything. This playlist, Adventurecraft General Discussions, is just that. It's general discussions on survival and adventurecraft, but more detailed videos concerning those 10 survival groups will go into their respective playlists. And to add to the 10 groups, I call it 10 plus 1. There is a plus 1 for a few items which really don't fit into those 10 survival groups. And the plus 1 is mainly personal gear, like your clothing, your footwear, which should always suit the situation and the environment and the temperatures and so forth. Hats, headwear, eyewear, sunglasses, clear safety goggles and gloves and so forth. Just a few personal items which you always should have that just don't fit into my 10 survival groups. So it's 10 plus 1. That's a quick run through of my 10 survival groups. We'll talk more in future videos about those 10 survival groups. As Steve Kaposi out here, take care, keep up the great work. I hope you found this interesting and stay tuned for future Adventurecraft videos. Thanks guys, see you next time.